I've been getting a few comments about my lanterns saying that my cabin is slowly turning into a lantern museum. So I thought I'd go over the lanterns that I have and which ones work the best so far. They are pretty simple. There's not many really parts to the lantern. This is a bigger model, but I have smaller ones. These are the classic Dietz blizzard lanterns or hurricane lanterns. There's two names for them. These things are really hard to blow out when they're lit. They're called a hurricane lantern for a reason, because if it's really windy, it just doesn't affect them at all. So they're good for that. But there is multiple parts, and the glass is thin, and there's a lot of parts to watch out for. But I'll go over pretty much all the ones I have. I just got this one, this antique one, and I have another antique model right here. So yeah, I'll go over the pros and cons of each one and the light output. Like I said, classic Dietz. This is the real brand, but there is hundreds of different replicas out there. There's Chinese made ones, there's US made ones, Canadian ones, what have you. Pretty much everybody has their take on these things. The glass changes shape. There's a bunch of different little models you get. Sizes are all different. They work very well. Like I said, there is not a lot of air holes. So to blow this thing out, wind would pretty much need to come in here and go down into the chimney and blow the wick out, which just really doesn't happen. I have trouble lifting the glass up and blowing with all my might, just trying to blow this thing out. So they are pretty easy to work if you don't know. All of them have little levers on here. The dog wants to play. All of them have little levers. The glass lifts up into the chimney. You light it. You close it back down. Very simple. It is easy to break the glass because I did. You have to hold the lever when it goes down because there is a spring in here. This is spring loaded to help you bring it up, but it also slams it back down. So yeah, if you slam it back down, your finger slips, the glass will crack pretty much like 3 times out of 10. It happened to me. It'll crack, and then it'll just chip, and then you'll wonder why there's a chunk missing out of your lantern. So yeah, very cool. I like the design. There's also a bunch of colors. This one just happens to be green. These things last quite a while. This one is a big model, so it does have quite the large tank. The light output on these things is awesome to have hanging around the room, especially if you have a place to hang it right in the middle. So it's kind of like a chandelier. It lights up all around really nicely. And depending on the flame, you could adjust it. I really like these things. That's why I pretty much have 4 or 5 or maybe 6 of them. And they are, depending on the model you get, what brand. Like I said before, there's a bunch of brands. Sometimes it could be expensive, sometimes it could be cheap. I like to get the real Dietz ones, or the ones made in Canada or the US. They are better quality, they don't leak. Also, one point, like I just said, is the welding. If you get a cheap one, the welds and the bends in the tank at the bottom could be faulty on the cheaper models, and they will leak. I have one on the side of my workshop that I don't use, just a decoration, because it just leaks everywhere. So it is extremely dangerous and is a fire hazard. Second model I thought I would show is these little candle lanterns. These are very popular, and you can find them at the hardware store during the summer or fall or spring. They're nice just to hang. I put mosquito repellent candles in mine just to help mosquitoes. I'm not sure it does anything, but hey, at least it looks cool while doing so. It has a globe. It's like a cheaper version of a hurricane lantern. I don't know where I got this one, honestly, but I've had it here since I got the cabin. They look cool. The light output is minimal. It is only 1 candle. You could get a bigger flame, I guess, if you use a bigger candle. But these, I just light them just to get a little bit of light, or just look when I'm filming videos, because the light output is very minimal. I just got this one a few weeks ago, or a month ago, I believe. I refurbished the entire thing on my channel. I really wanted one for a while. This was an oil lantern that got converted to an electric lantern, or I should say like a chandelier, with very, very old wires. So I'm guessing from the very early 1900s when electricity was just coming out, it got converted. I stripped it down of paint, of everything. Now it's the original tarnished brass. And I've made a makeshift oil lantern with it. These things are awesome because they reflect light a decent amount. If I get a bigger wick, I'd have the actual oil lantern that goes in there. Everything would be proper. It'd put out a decent amount of light. But as it is, right now, as it sits, it's just a little flame that I could make a lot bigger than it is now. So the light output isn't super great. I really love the reflector on here. And there is this little hanger here that also acts as a chimney protector, so the wind doesn't affect the flame at all. It has double protection. And if you adjust your flame too high, the soot doesn't go everywhere. It just stays all captured in here. Mine, all underneath, is all black. It's doing its job great. So you can hang it close to the ceiling, and I'm not worried at all that the ceiling's going to turn black or anything, because this thing does its job. And these are just awesome. I really, really like them. I've wanted an antique style, Western style saloon lantern for quite some time, and I finally found this thing. For looks, for me, it's a 10 out of 10. For light, probably a 6. The hurricane lanterns are much brighter than these, and they light up all around. This lights up mostly just underneath, but it is still way brighter than my little candle lanterns I showed before. Just recently purchased these. A classic, probably one of the oldest models of kerosene lantern that there is, with a reflector, and this is the original vintage model, as old as it gets. The patent on this thing is from 1807. I wanted an antique vintage model for quite some time for in the cabin, because this is a mix of all the lanterns. So like the saloon lantern, it has a reflector, but it reflects forward and in the direction you point it. You could hang it on a wall without any danger of scorching the entire place, because it has a reflector, and the backing on it, if I turn it like this, is way far out. It's like 4 inches away from the wall, and it is also metal. I'm not worried at all. The light output on these things are awesome as long as your globe is clean. I've been using them now for a bit, and it's already black just because I'm messing around with the wick, making sure it burns even. I use lantern oil in all my lanterns, even if this is a kerosene lantern. That is the proper name for them. I just find it, pure kerosene really, really just stinks when it burns, even if that's what they had 200 years ago. I use proper lantern oil. I don't know what the difference is at all, but lantern oil doesn't smell nearly as bad. Coming around here, like I mentioned, really cool reflector, great light output. If you want to put this thing on just a table, let's say because you want to eat or just need light in the middle of the room, no problem. It comes out. So, and you can see the level of oil you have in it. So very, very useful. One downside is that they're all glass, and an upside to them also is that they're all glass, because it is very, these old ones, I know the newer ones are thinner, but these older ones, man, are super thick. The globe on them, or let's say here this is the globe, and the chimney is very thick. Chimney is thinner than the tank, so I got to be careful with that, not to bash them around anywhere. But these are just standalone objects. I don't really mess with lanterns. I don't move them around too much, especially not this one, because I point it the direction you want and there's light. So yeah, very cool. With it being glass, there's a 0% chance of it leaking. There's no welds like the hurricane lanterns. or any other type, you could say, of oil lantern, there's pretty much no chance of a leak unless your glass is cracked, and that would be a pretty big fire hazard because instead of it being tin, it's glass. So if the fire gets into the tank, you have yourself a nice fragmentation grenade just waiting to happen. That was just my quick 2 cents on my lanterns. I'm not a lantern expert, I'm not a collector or anything like that. I have quite a few, but I'm not a collector. I'm just going off of pretty much what works for me. I don't have electricity in here, so these little lanterns work wonders. If I'd have to choose one, I can't say what my number one place would be, but it would probably be the Dietz Hurricane Lantern in multiple sizes. And if I really need to have one fixated to a wall or in a permanent spot, I would choose these old kerosene lanterns. The output on them is crazy. They give off great light. And if you get newer models, they are pretty cheap. The old ones like these are very pricey though, but you get what you pay for. The quality is there. So thanks for watching. Like I mentioned, my 2 cents on the lanterns. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you like my cabin, make sure to check out my other videos, as I try to post some every Friday.